Are you familiar with the nickname Sugar High Josh Allen?
I am. And yeah, you're the creator of it, I believe.
Yeah, I created it. As far as you understand, what does it mean?
Means like when you take a bunch of sugar and you get all hopped up and your mind doesn't function as well as you want it to function, and just kind of all hell breaks loose, no holds bar. And again, sometimes I can produce a little bit of chaos on the field, but at the same time, I say that I feel like I thrive a little bit in a little chaos. And yeah, that's chaotic structure. It's kind of what I'm used to, and it's always been a part of my game. And it's just honestly me trying to make plays and trying to do what I think is right and what I feel is right on the field in order to help my team win football games. And obviously, I think I've slowly moved away from Sugar High Josh Allen, and he'll pop up every once in a while, but it's just because I want it so bad.
That was Josh Allen's take on him being Sugar High Josh Allen, which we saw a lot less of this year. And now we are going to be joined by the creator of the Sugar High Josh Allen nickname himself. It's Kyle Brandt, NFL Network Good Morning Football host and host of the 10 Questions with Kyle Brandt podcast by The Ringer. Kyle, I love that you brought this up to Josh Allen. And I love also that he was like, oh yeah, you're the creator of that nickname. And he owned up to a little bit, but we also learned he kind of likes being Sugar High Josh Allen to a point too.
Yeah, I didn't shed it at all. And Maddie, it's fun. And Steve, great to see you and everything. It's fun because this show, we have talked many times about Sugar High Josh Allen over the last 2 years. It's just part of the vernacular we've developed. And Bills fans tweet it, and if Josh makes a play that's a little nuts, or maybe doesn't make a play and it's a little nuts, I always see it constantly sent to me over social media. So when he sits down, you got to put the cards on the table. You got to say, look, Josh, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that doesn't happen. Are you familiar with it? Now, I don't really know if he is or not. What the hell is that? I didn't get the phrase out of my mouth yet, and he's already not. I know the Sugar High Josh Allen. And yet, to your point, Maddie, he laughs a little bit and then he gets a little steely, and he does not shed the nickname, nor is he hiding from what it's all about. And I think it just represents everything Josh did when we sat down for an hour last week.
You being on One Bills Live with us, you were regular during the season. It was such a fun season. It was great. So you kind of, more so than any perhaps national media person, you kind of get what the Bills vibe is, both from the fans, the mafia, and the team, and from us here on this show. You really basically you had to know once you decided you wanted Josh on the podcast.
Yeah,
it took it like an hour to make that happen. And
it takes
it's really
years, Kyle.
Right,
okay.
right. He hasn't been on our show in a year, right? So, but it was kind of really cool that you knew that if you just went to the family, you get the kid, the son was going to come to do what you said. You go to the parents and the kid does what he's told. So you go to the mafia, and lo and behold, the next thing you know, he's on the podcast. It was you get a feel for that though, right?
Steve, it's an incredible origin story how this happened. And I would say this, I think nationally, people here in other parts of the country, Bills Mafia this, Bills Mafia, we get it. You guys jump through tables, you wait at the tarmac, blah, blah, blah. It's not really that big of a deal. Let me respond to that, all right? I have been trying to get Josh Allen on 10 Questions for many months, and for many reasons, most of which that he was focused on the football season, it couldn't happen. But there's chains of communication, and he's here, and it's difficult to book these things. So I just had a moment where I walked off set from Good Morning Football. I'm like, God, I really want to do Josh right now. I want to have him on the show. So you go to Twitter, and I just tweeted, I'd really like to have at Josh Allen QB on the show. I wonder if the Bills Mafia would help me recruit him. Send the tweet out, go about your day. 56 minutes later, 56. I looked at the timestamp. I looked at the clock. I get an email from the great Kevin Kearns that just says, Josh is in. I replied, wait, he's in? He's going to do it? He's in. How's next Tuesday? 56 minutes. Now, I defy any other fan base, 31 other fan bases, to turn it around at all, let alone that quickly. I would challenge the Dog Pound to get Baker Mayfield in 56 minutes. I would challenge the 12th man to get Russell Wilson in 56 minutes. You couldn't do it in 5 years. Bills fans, bam, under an hour. And Josh and I talked about it. I said, what was that like for you? He goes, started seeing all my mentions. Figure I got to do this. Once Big John Feliciano jumped in and said I got to do it, I was in under an hour. And I applaud you, Bills Mafia. You're the real deal.
I mean, you just cracked the code to how you should get interviews with people. You want someone on Good Morning Football? Put it out on Twitter. Let the fans set it up for you. Don't go through the PR department, although they may be like, no, that's not right, Kyle. You need to come through us first. But hey, it worked with you, with Josh Allen, with Bills Mafia. Thank you, John Feliciano, his right-hand man. What was your favorite part about taping this podcast? Maybe one of your favorite answers that you got from Josh Allen? Because once you're in a conversation with him for 30 minutes to an hour, you got an hour, lucky you. But he's a fun, cool dude to talk with. And it's like, I could share a beer with this guy and it'd be a great time.
I know. It's Maddie, it's just, you sit down and it's not this super uptight, kind of stuffy quarterback politician. He's a cool guy. I liked him immediately. We had an instant icebreakers. In the first 30 seconds, he's making all these movie references and stuff, but not the topical stuff. He was going deep cut, B-side type references. And I'm like, Josh, this is going to be really fun. You and I are going to get along because, Steve, I make crazy references like that all the time. And so we immediately bonded. I think I had a lot of favorite answers. I think some of them were more interesting and serious, but there's one thing you do not challenge Josh Allen on. It has nothing to do with football and has everything to do with the Cantaloupe Farm. And I went at him and I said, Josh, there's a reputation out there. I'm not saying it's my own. The cantaloupe it's a filler fruit. It's just something that's there to, set the stage for the more star-driven fruits like raspberry and pineapple. Basically, what I'm saying, Josh, is cantaloupe is the offensive lineman of the fruit salad. It's just there. It's your classic left guard. He got triggered. He stood up higher in his seat. I said, what would you say? He said, well, they've never had real cantaloupe. And I was like, okay, Josh, I didn't know I could be fired up by a cantaloupe take, but I went deep on that and then had other takes on pistachios, all over the board, really. I mean, we talked heavy stuff. We talked about the draft. We talked about how you're going to beat the Chiefs. We talked about getting vaccinated. It was all it wasn't just movie references and produce. We really went deep and Josh was willing. It was very cool.
What did he talk to you about what he's doing these days? I mean, he's got some family events coming up. He's got all kinds of stuff. What's he doing in the offseason? Because we always get stuff here. We start to take note of it when a workout video shows up, when he's throwing with Steph Diggs the first time they meet, that kind of. What's he doing now? Where is he at? What's going on with Josh at this point of the offseason?
Yeah, he talked a lot about Steve. He's in Southern California where he likes to set up shop. He's training with his guys as he always does. It was funny when we started. Some people, when they do 10 questions, they start a little nervous, they start a little tense because there's a score involved. Paul Rudd comes on the show and is like America's sweetheart. Everybody loves him. He was a little nervous. And I think Josh was going to be, but then he said, I've got to give a best man toast at my brother's wedding this weekend. So I was like, oh, this is nothing. That's high stakes. You can't mess that up. So his mind was totally focused on that, which allowed him to focus on this. I know his brother was getting married. He was delivering the toast. I think it's happened by now. So I assume he's nailed it. And then I said, so Josh, what's it like? Do you watch the draft? And what is it like as not only a player on the team now, but the star quarterback to sit there and watch your new teammates be plucked out of college? And now you're going to know them, go to battle with them next year. And he had some very interesting perspective. And he seemed to indicate he thought the Bills would go defense. And yet, when I said, Josh, you're not just sitting there saying, please take linemen and wide receivers and tight ends with every pick? He kind of laughed. So, Steve, you've been through it before. When the draft comes, you'll be like, this could be in the locker next to me right now that I'm watching.
Right.
Yeah, it's an interesting perspective, the answer that he gave, because you never really think about the players who are already on this team who are watching these guys get drafted or come in and wondering, all right, is this first round pick going to make an immediate impact? Because that's what the Buffalo Bills need right now. Their window to win, and they're right in their wheelhouse right now. It's this year, it's next year. You got to get far, and you got to get back to the AFC Championship game, because they're capable of doing it. They need a little bit more help here and there were a few holes, but those things can be filled up and mended. And I believe they're going to come back stronger this next season, and you could hear that in Josh's answer when you asked him about the AFC Championship loss, and he said, I still carry that with me every day. It's something that I think about. And you heard it when we lost to the Texans, but it's like this is a step deeper and a step higher, and the cut is a little bit deeper in that these guys are still walking with this loss, but hopefully in turn it turns into something that can be used for good once we hit the field in training camp. I mean, what were your thoughts on how he kind of walked through how that's still very much a part of his life today?
Candid. Completely candid. And, we all remember the shot of Stephon standing there on the field watching the Chiefs celebrate. Someone in Josh's position could easily say, I've turned the page on that. Now it's on to the next season, and I'm focused here. You said it. I said, how much does that stay with you? You guys lost pretty handily. It was not close. You lost dramatically. And he said, I think about it every day. Every day. I don't shake it. And I respected that, because who wouldn't think about it every day? It was only a couple of months ago. And also, like, to that note of not pulling punches, cards on the table, I said to him, the Chiefs are a problem. They're going to be a problem for a long time. And the AFC title game is the Arrowhead Invitational. They've now played 3 straight title games. If you guys get back there next year, I got to tell you, they're going to be there. So do you look at Kansas City as this big bad wolf that you have to take care of them, or you're going to spend your career being Karl Malone and Patrick Ewing and Gary Payton, who couldn't beat Jordan? And again, to Josh's credit, there's no cliche that kicks in about, well, all the teams are good, or, it's a tough league every year. You never know. It was like, he understands fully that the Chiefs are a problem, and they're a problem that's not going away, and you got to take them out. And I got fired up even having the conversation with him. I can't imagine being a fan listening to it, or a teammate.
So it's like the podcast is on 10 Questions with Kyle Brandt. It's also dropping in video. Is it today that we can see the video as well?
Yeah, it's already out. You can get it on YouTube now, or you can get it on Spotify now. Anywhere you can click, it's right there. It's all of our social media and your guys as well.
Yeah, it's going to be great. I recommend it to everybody. I watched portions of it, and I also wanted to catch the questions, and I know Josh did pretty well on his questions. I'll let the fans just tune in and get what he did. But we've been sitting here, and the NFL is unbelievable. We sit here, we have a 3-hour radio show about one of the teams, and we talk about
how do we do it?
Right? We talk about the whole league, but you're the same way. I mean, come on, you and Nate and Kay and Pete, you guys talk about it every day, just like we do. Uh-huh. The draft is coming down the chute at us. We never stop talking about it. People can't get enough of it. For us, the Bills have had a surprising offseason in that they didn't change that much. We didn't lose any guys to free agent. We got guys signing deals here because they don't want to leave. We got guys signing deals here because they can't wait to play for this guys. It's a different environment here in Buffalo, and they seem to be set up here for the time being to be pretty good going forward.
Yeah, I think they call that a first world problem, Steve, is that you have so many good players, you don't know who to draft. Where do we go? There's too many return starters on this team. I think the draft for this year for Buffalo, and Josh and I talked about this as well, as you mentioned, like, he seemed to think defense, we'll see. I'm sure they'll make a solid pick, and maybe they'll even trade back. But I think this year's draft for Bills fans is sitting there and buckling up and seeing, what the Jets do all the way up there, which they've kind of showed their hand now. But more importantly, those guys in New England, I don't know. They're in one of those middle round picks. I think they're 15. It's the highest, I believe, that they've been in over a decade. And they may even go higher. If I'm a Bills fan, I'm sitting there and saying, we got a great team right now. Maybe we'll make it better tonight. But more importantly, are the Pats going to do something nuts? Are they going to go get one of these quarterbacks? Or are they honestly going to go into this season with Cam Newton as their starting guy? You see New England there at 15. They're never at 15. Bill Belichick may never be at 15 again in his life. So if he was ever going to do something like, oh, screw it, move up to 5 or to move anywhere, this seems like a year he would do it. I just have this feeling that the one thing the Patriots are not going to do in the draft is nothing. There's going to be some sort of move, and not to mention the Jets all the way up at the top like that too. So a lot of this draft affects the Bills fans. I wonder after night one how everyone in the Mafia will feel. The team feels great, but about the AFC East.
Right.
Yeah, the Jets, the Dolphins, the Patriots are up there. The Bills are not this year, and I make the mistake all the time of like jumping to conclusions. So the Dolphins pick whoever, the Patriots move up and maybe pick a quarterback, I'm like, oh no, it's going to be a really hard year in the AFC East. And of course, those draft picks have to like prove themselves on the field. But I like instantly think these guys are going to be household names. But what comes along with that past the draft and looking forward to the Buffalo Bills season, and Josh Allen, you brought this conversation up with Josh too, is the contract extension talk, which is a very hot topic for Bills Mafia, for the fans. We did a podcast with Brandon Beane last week and asked him about that topic, and it's kind of like of course, you're not going to show your cards or anything. It's like, we'll wait and see when that happens. What type of feeling did you get from Josh when you asked him the question about, is it going to be this year, next year? Do you have any opinions on it?
Well, how would I describe the feeling? He kind of knows the question is coming, but the whole point was there wasn't a question. I was going to ask him 5. I'm like, Josh, we're going to keep talking about this, because when I first brought it up, I think he went to the bumper sticker line, which is when it happens, it happens. I said, okay, but let's talk about when it's going to happen and how it's going to happen. I just kept pushing him. It was the one time he was probably annoyed with me, but that's okay. And listen, he's obviously really well respected, and we know what's coming. But Brandon Beane said, you guys know, maybe it's next year, maybe it's this year. Okay, well, that's a massive difference. I mean, a really big difference. One whole season, a lot could happen in that time. And I think the funniest part was, I said, all right, Josh, well, maybe it happens here, maybe it happens here. How do you feel about the term franchise tag? And he literally said, ew, right on the air, which cracked me up. But listen, we've seen them all the time. Now, it's a thing that happens where you can't figure this thing out with the quarterback. It's too much money, too much time, and you have to go to that break glass in case of emergency. I don't think it'll happen with Josh. It usually doesn't happen with Buffalo, but based on his reaction, it spoke volumes about they will not be allowing that to happen to him.
Right, and they've still got 2 years to do it. And I asked Maddie just a minute ago, when do you start to panic as a Bills fan that it's going to get nasty or bad or go crazy that they haven't signed him? When do you panic? And I'm literally 3 years away from that. I mean, I'm like a franchise tag away from it. They'll play out his contract. They'll franchise him after that. I'm way away from that. And I think it'll probably happen not after this year, but maybe in the middle of next offseason when they get an idea of what the 2023 cap is going to look like with the new TV deal and all that. That seems to me the time when they'll do it, because then they can structure it and know what they're dealing with down the road.
Yeah, there's that idea that maybe there's going to be more money a year from now and it could be a higher contract. And yet, I mean, it's a little tricky because Josh's stock is really high. He's coming off an MVP candidacy, a title game. Like, there's part of you might say, let's do it now. I don't want to risk another season. I don't know what's going to happen in the next season. My stock's rarely going to get much higher than it is right now. Let's take care of this thing. That's the great mystery of the when. And I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I think on maybe question 16 of 20 that I asked him about this, he said, of course, something into the effect of it'd rather be happen sooner than later. It's a great mystery. Beane has been on fire. Josh has been on fire. I know they're going to get it done. I don't think they would ever allow this to turn into a mess, but there is a gamble of waiting another year. And look, Lamar Jackson doesn't have the big contract. We saw what happened with Dak Prescott. The Mahomes thing is massive and plays into this thing. And that's the kind of stuff we're talking about. So there are elements. My vibe from Josh would be, and you can judge this for yourself if you listen or you watch, no fear. There doesn't seem to be any concern. It's a one way or another, and I didn't sense any nervousness or tension about the biggest payday of his life. I think he's very content with how it's going.
Well, yeah, his stock is really high now. He's taken a step forward. Whoa, how high will his stock get if he takes another step forward and the Bills do beat the Chiefs, they do go to the Super Bowl, they do win, then how high is his stock? Because not only is he, say he's an MVP, say he's a Super Bowl winner, all of that kind of stuff, and he's still getting better. And he can point to the back and say, listen, I still haven't reached my roof.
Well, then then you're in Mahomes territory. Mahomes won the MVP and the Super Bowl and then signed a $500 million deal. And listen, and if it happens, if they win the Super Bowl next year and he hasn't signed his deal yet, then that's the comp. Then I want what Pat has. And maybe he'll say that, maybe he won't. I can't speak for him. Maybe it's what I'd say. But if his stock gets higher, Steve, then we're going to be in some of these baseball guys like Tatis and all these guys who are sending $18 million, 18-year Bobby Bonilla type stuff. It can't get much higher, and yet if they win the Super Bowl, it will.
Right.
We had Kim Pagula on the podcast too, and we asked her about this as well. You know, you re-sign Josh Allen, you do a contract extension for him. You did one for Tre'Davious White. You did one for Deion Dawkins. You're starting to get in the territory, which is a good thing. Of you're paying these players a lot of money to stay here, and rightfully so, because they've earned their keep. And you're not just shipping people off and bringing new people in and trying to find that healthy medium where you've got the guys that you want and you're winning games. And it's like, Josh is going to be an expensive paycheck. Are you worried about that? She's like, no, I want to sign those big checks. Like, that means we have it going on here, and things are good here is when we do get to sign those big deals and those contract extensions. So I'm excited for the future of him. When we go back to the podcast, though, and 10 questions with Kyle Brandt and the types of guests that you've had on, and also just how it's like formulated. I think it's so cool that you're asking these guys questions and it's a competition. I mean, what's next for you? Aaron Rodgers just hosted Jeopardy. Is that going to be your thing next year?
Well, let's see if Aaron Rodgers gets the gig. If he doesn't, I'll be happy to come right in. I have no problem with that. Somebody needs to draft a Jordan Love in that situation, I guess. I guess that would be me. But no, I have great respect for Jeopardy. I've watched it my entire life. Of course, I would like a shot at that. Absolutely. Because Maddie, and thank you for mentioning it. For those who have never heard the show, it's not just a conversation. There's a game that we play, and everybody gets a final score. And I will not spoil it on the air right now if you haven't heard or listened yet. But Josh's score was astonishing. And I won't say if it was good or bad. Listen, you got points out of 10. You get 0 all the way to 10. Alex Smith, the quarterback, was the high water mark before this. It was a 9 out of 10. We've had 3s, 4s, 5s. Rodgers got a 6. I think Favre got a 6. Kirk Cousins got a 5. Josh's score was one to remember. Won't say if it was good or bad, but he was competitive as hell.
Yeah, and that's one of the things about you. It's a great podcast. It's a competition. I'm not particularly when you get athletes on there.
Yeah,
everything is a competition. If you're gonna attach a score to it, they're gonna bear down. You've got a resume, and it's now you're in a podcast. You're in Good Morning Football. You played college football, but your resume is you've touted it. You kind of put it out there. Yours is the strangest resume out there. And give us an idea why so many different things that you've done that makes your resume so wild, and how did that lead to the job at Good Morning Football?
Not great at any of them, Steve. That's the way this happens. You have to keep changing. My resume is stranger than yours. That's my motto. Not better than yours, not worse than yours, but definitely stranger. And when you put that opinion out, sometimes people will walk up to you on the street and be like, dude, I got it for you. Step aside, Brent. I can beat your resume. And they rattle off these crazy eclectic jobs they've had. I get it on Twitter all the time. But yeah, from college football to the Real World on MTV to Days of Our Lives to 9 years with Jim Rome to the NFL to now, the lights went out. The lights finally went out. That was a bad omen as I'm running down my career.
You're talking about your career.
It's back. I was a message from God. Is that like wrap it up at the Oscars? All right, they're back. For anybody listening, my lights went out. I'm trying to answer the question best I can, Steve, and I think it would just be sometimes I max out on things and I get bored of them, and at other times you're not welcome anymore. Sometimes you get told to turn in your playbook, and sometimes you have to just do it on your own. I don't know what's going to be next, but I really, really like the show that I'm doing now, 10 Questions, as well as GMFB.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite guest that you've had on? I'm sure, I would hope Josh Allen is up there, but do you have some favorites? And do you have someone that you really want to get on that's been a hard person to get on the podcast?
Well, to that point, the first question, I've had many favorites. I really, really liked, I liked a bunch. Rodgers was the first guest, and he's amazing. He's probably the best interview in all of sports. Unbelievable guy. Guy Fieri was incredible. Viggo Mortensen from Lord of the Rings was incredible. Gronk and Camille Kostek together, he and his girlfriend were fantastic. But to the point of someone you want to get on, never mind who I want to get on. At the end of every episode, we ask the contestant, call somebody out right now. Look into the camera and say, come in here on this show and beat my score. So everybody does it. And sometimes, we had Keegan Michael Key and he called out Strahan, who's coming on, and they try to respond and answer. Well, Josh, he was on for an hour. And I would say about every 6 minutes in that hour, which means 10 times, he was bringing up Will Ferrell. It just kept coming up Will Ferrell. That is his guy. That is his movie idol. That is his dude. So I said, Josh, I think you have to do it right now. So he looks at the camera and says, Will, please come on 10 questions. Try to beat my score. If you do, we will work out some sort of arrangement, some sort of bet where I will reward you with some sort of experience or something. So we are now efforting Will Ferrell on behalf of the Bills franchise quarterback. And to bring this thing full circle, I may have to enlist the Bills Mafia yet again to do Josh's bidding and get Ron Burgundy on 10 questions. We may have to release the hounds.
So who was the most surprising guest you've had on? The guy that you thought, besides Ja, you tried to get him, you couldn't get. Who was the guest that you had on? It's like, I can't believe we got that guy or that girl.
Great question. We had, let me think about who's the most unbelievable one. We've had a ton of them. I mentioned Keegan Michael Key, who is from Key and Peele, the end zone celebrations, and the East West All-Star game was unbelievable. He was really great. Erin Andrews came on and recreated her interview with Richard Sherman about "Don't You Ever Come at Me." She was fantastic. We've had some really, really weird ones too. Just like, okay, so for example, Tim Robbins came on, the great actor. Oh, yeah. And I didn't know if Tim Robbins would be into this. The format is a little different. You get a score. It's competitive. There's sound effects. There's, weird me doing my thing. Tim Robbins came on. We talked Shawshank all day long. He told stories about how at night during the Shawshank shoot, he would go to Morgan Freeman's house that he was renting. The two of them would barbecue and play basketball together. There were Shawshank Redemption pickup basketball games going on against each other. All kinds of amazing stories like that. I didn't know he'd be into it. Tim Robbins, by the end of it, Steve, was like arguing about the questions that they were too hard. And I listened to the last episode and his was too easy, like unbelievably competitive. So that would be my answer. I just thought he'd be a cool actor, very established Academy Award winner. No, he was out for blood. He was crawling through that tunnel of what to escape. Like he wanted it bad.
That's awesome.
That's so amazing. Kyle, thanks so much for taking the time to chat with us after the release of the 10 Questions with podcast. Josh Allen was on. Great interview. Great job. I'm sure you love getting to hear all these people's stories and doing the research, because that's like the most fun part about being in this industry, is getting to talk to people and to hear, how you got into whatever you're doing. So we appreciate the conversation.
Thanks, Kyle.
We appreciate everything you do with Bills Mafia. Mount up as always. And we'll catch you here again soon, hopefully.
Anytime. A huge part of the reason that Bills fans are familiar with me is my appearances on this show. I don't think Josh Allen is coming on 10 Questions unless Bills fans know me from this show. So thank you for having me. I always feel like I have a home here, and I'm thrilled to be here with you guys. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thanks, Kyle. Take care, man. Enjoy the rest of the offseason.
Thank you, Matty. See ya.